Welcome to the We Can Do It Women movement, where women 60 and wiser step into the spotlight and make the rest of their lives the best of their lives. I'm your host, Deborah Morrison, a wealth building expert and champion for extraordinary women just like you. Yeah, for 47 years, I've helped women secure their financial futures, and now I'm on a mission to ignite a revolution, showing the world at age 60, 70, and beyond. Some of us are a nickel slower, and yet we're all just getting started. And today's We Can Do It Women expert interview features Amy Goober, an accomplished action coach, workshop leader, inspiring speaker who helps women get into the driver's seat of their own lives. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's a real pleasure. And I want to go start back with Amy's background because she's weathered a few storms for sure. And she's going to talk to us about some of those transitions in our time together. Her dad died at age 15. Yikes. And her mom was an academic and was involved in the community and so forth. And Amy spent a lot of time with her best friend, Janet, who could sew and decorate cakes and so forth. And as I say, this is going to come into focus a little bit later. Amy goes off to college and she gets her bachelor's degree in psychology from Cornell University, graduating with a BS in psychology and human behavior. And she is amazing. And so that cake decorating at Janet's house came in a little bit handy because she founded a successful custom cake bakery in Boston called The Icing on the Cake. Talk to us about that.
Yes. So when I first moved to Boston directly from college, so it was 1981. I was 22 at the time, and I worked in advertising, and it was very much like Mad Men. I mean, literally, women all started as secretaries. The men literally came in two levels above.
Yeah.
Fresh out of college, same everything. Women had to type. They had to be a secretary. So I sort of worked my way up, and throughout those 2, 3, 4 years, I had always loved cake decorating. And so it was a little more than a hobby. It was more of a passion than a hobby. And so I started taking extra classes in cake decorating, and then I started teaching at the Boston Center for Adult Education. So now I'm bringing all these cakes into the advertising agency, like my homework, the cakes. And people said, "Oh my God, can you do a cake for us? Can you do a cake for the Friendly restaurant? Can you do a cake of a Honeywell computer?" All these things. So I started doing like 3D cake sculptures, crazy, crazy stuff, and big ice cream sundae, crazy things. And they all said, "Oh, you should open a bakery," which, how many times have we all been told, "Oh, you should open something?"
Oh,
And
yeah.
most people don't listen. And I was like, okay. So So I left the ad agency, and they had come up with the name, which was the icing on the cake. They had come up with the logo, which looked like pink icing. The icing on the cake was beautiful. And they started to get me some publicity. And then I got like a part of an article in the Boston Globe. And then those were in the days of answering machines. I had 100 messages on my answering machine after that, like within a few weeks after that. And I was baking out of my apartment. Like I didn't even have a bakery. So I was like, well, I either have to like fish or cut bait. So I rented a space and renovated it and all this stuff. And I had no idea what I was doing. Nothing. No idea. Nothing. But it was really, it was all cakes. So it was kind of like Cake Boss. It was big sculpted cakes. It was all kind of weddings and things, crazy stuff. No cookies, no nothing. It was these decorated cakes. So yeah, so I did all the marketing, I did everything, and then I started hiring people, and so I did that for 7 years, which at the time seemed like 37 years, but only 7 years. And during that span, I got married, and I had my first child. And I said, I'm done with this. I want to be a stay-at-home mom. That's what I decided. So I sold my bakery to two of my employees, and they are still there. So that baby that I sold the bakery for is turning 33.
Oh, heavens to Murgatroyd. I love these stories. So you guys, you're visiting Boston, you live in Boston, go to Icing on the Cake and say,
Right.
hey, I heard Amy on the
Yeah.
Weekend Women show.
Yeah.
Now, Amy, seriously, you have your first baby, Samantha, marries
Mhm.
Bob, and has her first baby, Samantha, when you were 33 years old.
Yes, that was my first. I had her when I was 33, and then I had a little boy when I was 36, and then
Jimmy.
Jimmy. And then we decided, well, it was a little bit of a battle, but I really wanted to have a third. And so that third one, Jessie, is turning 24 tomorrow. So
Oh,
I
so
had her, I was turning 42. I
I
mean, I
see
was six
that.
weeks away from 42, which Doesn't even seem that old now, but I'm telling you, 24 years ago, it was like advanced maternal age.
Yeah.
I was old to be having a baby then in those
I,
days.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's kind of where we are now, but not then. And so, wow, hats off. I read in your book, which I suggest to everyone. I have it on Kindle here. It's adorable, and she wrote it with her mom, Gwen, and the title is "My Mother Always Says." So, you would come back with to patients, I'm sure, and friends and colleagues and so forth. Well, my mom would say. And
Yes.
I tend to do that too, but which was hysterical. I'm reading in her book, and she said she couldn't believe the hospital actually let her take that baby, that brand new baby daughter home because
True.
she didn't know what she was doing.
It's so true. I was saying to them, can't you show me the bath again? Like,
Oh my God.
because I had no experience. I had no experience with babies, nothing. I didn't babysit babies, nothing. I had no family members had babies, nothing. It was literally, I was like, can I stay another night? Can I learn a little more?
And then I read, Bob's reading how to take care of a baby to you. You're holding.
Yeah.
That must have been, oh my heart. That just sounds like an
Yeah.
book.
We didn't know what we were doing, honestly. We had no idea what we were doing. Nothing. No idea.
It sounds like it worked out really well. So yeah, you had a 9-year span from
Yes.
Samantha to
Samantha.
Jesse.
Yes.
So
So
wow.
I had Samantha, and then 3 years later, I had Jimmy, and then we like were kind of done. And then a few years in, when Jimmy was turning 4, I said to my husband, I think I really want to have a third. And he said, well, we can't have any more children because we sold our crib at a yard sale. That's it. We're done. He was kidding, but yeah. So it took me like a couple of years to get him on board and then get pregnant and then have this baby. So they're almost 6 years apart, Jesse and Jimmy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So
Yeah.
you raise your children, you sell the bakery to your employees, you raise your children, and then you transition into health and wellness. You became a certified health coach in 2013. And
Right.
since you've coached over, I think I'm sure this number is old, 700 clients, helping them achieve weight loss, better health, and you rose to the rank of global directory at
Yeah.
Optavia. This is
Yeah.
representative of only 2% of coaches in Optavia, attain global director. So talk to us about Optavia. Talk to us about how you helped clients come in, patients come in, however you determine,
Yeah.
and how you
Yeah.
determine what they maybe best needed. Because sometimes it's not
Yeah.
what they present.
Well, and it's a great transition into what I'm doing now. It's called Optavia, but I no
Oh,
stress. So yeah, I worked for this company because I had been overweight as a teenager, and it was a program, a set program that I tried, my husband tried, and we did really well with it. And people said, "Oh my God, how did you lose the weight? What did you do?" So I became a coach. I had a coach, and then I became a coach, and I just was sort of like stumbling along, sort of, seeing. And of course, I realized I never dip my toe in. I'm always all in. And so I created this whole over 6, 7 years, a
sure.
big business of the global director. And I had tons of coaches under me. And I had, by that point, coached 700 clients. And it was a specific program that Optavia had created under Dr. Wayne Anderson. So it was medically created, and it was amazing. And I earned trips and I did trainings. I mean, I was all in, and it was totally a full-time gig. It definitely was a full-time gig. However, and then I was turning 60. So this was 2019. I was turning 60, and my youngest, Jesse, was going off to college by this point, like all those years had passed. And I knew that I wanted to do something of my own again. I didn't want to be, I wanted to move away from being under the umbrella of a nationwide company. I wanted my own thing. And I like gradually moved away from that. And at the same time started Drive Your Life, which is the action coaching. So,
Exactly.
you know, I I just kept saying to myself, if I don't do it now, when? Which ties right into your whole thing, which is, you're 60, you're turning 60. Are you going to shrink back? Oh, I'm
Yeah.
60. Or are you going to be like, I'm 60, I better get going? What's your attitude? So,
Oh, right now, yes. And I was going well, we'll talk very much about that. This background that you had already from Cornell in psychology, it provides you with obviously an understanding of human behavior,
right.
motivation, behavioral
Mhm.
change, emotional dynamics. Because, I mean, I did asset management for 42 years, and yet there's a whole other field called behavioral finance. And if you don't meld the two, you're not going to get that results, and you're not going to get that stick-to-itiveness. I'm sure I'm insulting your intelligence, but this whole training, I think, is very rich, and it allowed you to recognize and address various mindset barriers for women. Talk to us about how you have a desire and program to help women stop overthinking.
Yeah. So my first program I came up with, which I still run and it's coming up in September, is called Drive Your Life.
Yes.
And I felt when I looked around to see what did I want to do and where did I think the need was, I felt like there were a lot of women who were talking about something they wanted to do for a very long time and just not doing it. And it could be anything. It could be I want to lose 10 pounds. It could be I want to clean up my attic. It could be I want to change my job. It could be I want to leave my husband. It could be I want to move away. I mean, it could be anything. And so I created a 5-step process that teaches women how to get into action. And and we still do virtual small group coaching programs once a week for 8 weeks. And you're in a small group container and you learn the process and you're doing the process during the course. So what I didn't want to do was teach an online course, a live course, and have people at the end up with like a stack of notes. And then what? Because I had taken many courses like that. It was exciting when I was taking the course, and then at the end I had a notebook and I never did anything with it. So I wanted the women to be doing the steps. So each week we do the steps. So they start here, and by the end of the course, they're here in whatever it is that they want to do. So they create one thing, and that's part of the process is what is it that you want? And it could be small, it could be medium, it could be large. It's not life changing. It literally can be, minimal, but it's flexing the muscle of getting into action, and a lot of these behaviors I think are like layered, you know. You do one thing and it gives you the confidence. Oh, well, I did that. Oh, well, I did that. And I was just telling a group I was on with a group this week, an object in motion stays in motion. Once you start going, you're going to go. And so that's Drive Your Life. And the women saw great progress. We had unbelievable results, which I think was a combination of hopefully the coaching, that I provided and the system, but also being in a small group container because women want to help each other. By session 5 and 6, they're coaching each other. I'm like, could I say something? So they developed strong ties, strong connections, and then they were able to do this again and again. It's a formula. It's like a recipe.
There you have it. There you have it. And I love the whole quote from you. You want to have women put themselves back on their own to-do list. So you help women clarify what they want, and that's not like a small thing. I don't want to just skin over that, because I mean I manage money for high net worth people, and I would say, what are you looking to do with this? And sometimes I was met with the deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
And so we've all been someplace. We've all been affected from life and whatever our circumstances are. And yet I think that there's this pall that kind of comes down. I mean, certainly the Great Recession of 07, 08, was very shocking to many people, followed swiftly by the pandemic and so forth, and where we are now. And so I think that it's not just the normal, oh, I want to do this. Yeah. Oh, okay, great. I think that we want to pay particular attention to teasing out, if you will, that which we really want. And I would sometimes come at it in the reverse. And, I don't know if this is psychologically acute, but the fact is I would say, well, okay, you don't know what you want. Okay, that's fine. My suspicion is you don't want to live the rest of your life or the next chapter at a standard of living less than you're living now. Oh, no. Okay, great. Then that's where we're going to start, right?
Yeah.
And then we see, it's like this pump gets primed, right? And then we become more specific. So then the second thing, set achievable goals, gain the confidence and support to move forward. So just flesh this out a little bit more, because these points and this discipline, this recipe ingredients are very valuable. I want everyone to be able to take notes real quick.
Yeah, so I think, for me, it's the process is not like what do you want in the big picture? It's what do you want to work on now, right? So we have an 8-week experience, and I make them choose one thing.
Great.
because you're not going to get great traction if have you heard people say want to get healthier and they say, well, I'm going to walk 3 miles a day every single day. I'm not going to eat any sweets and I'm going to drink, 10 glasses of water a day. And it's like physically impossible to do all those things at once. So I believe they'll get traction. So I make them choose one thing. So it doesn't have to be, what do I want in my life? It can be like, what have I been talking about doing that I'm not doing? Because again, they have to get the practice of it. Sometimes it's a relationship they want to improve. It can be anything. I mean, that we've seen such vast, wide variety, and they're all working on their own thing. So there's no competition, right?
Right.
Because this one's doing this and that one's doing that. So, but for me, it's all about the confidence that they can move forward. And we
Absolutely.
look back, we look inside ourselves. I give them, the steps to take so that it just becomes every week, like, did you do it? Oh, they all did it. So they do it, and they do the thing, whatever it is for their task and their goal. So we've just seen great progress. So I run it every year in September, and there you have it. I mean, it's just a great virtual program.
Amazing. And your clients and patients and so forth have praised you for your energy, your compassion. This
Yeah.
is very key because when you lead with compassion, there's infectious kind of, or, energy that spreads and permeates the whole group. And then bringing people back to the focal point, right? Okay, what is an actionable strategy next? And I love the way you talk about getting women through their perfectionism because holy moly, women are perfectionists about their investing. And I am just like, shed that shame. If Warren Buffett can make $6 billion mistakes with a B, who are we to think we're going to do this perfectly? So even in an 8-week course, I'm suspecting that, people trip a little bit, they get a little bit of a
Yeah.
barrier, and then we got to get back on the road to our goal. And so talk to us about how you maybe dislodge this whole notion of perfectionism is just like, if I have to be perfect, why should I start? Right.
Yes. Well, one of my favorite quotes by Amelia Earhart is perfect is the enemy of done.
Hey,
So, whether you call yourself a perfectionist or not, if you're pushing something off and pushing it off and pushing it off, one option is it's because you don't think you can do it well enough. So, like, even myself, right? I have to put out proposals and I run women's trips. I do all these things. And at some point, I have to click the submit button. Is it perfect? No. Could the pictures be a little better? Could the writing be a little better? Is it perfect? No, it's absolutely not perfect. But if I don't push the submit button, guess what? There's no proposal and nobody's going on any trips because I waited around too long to actually make it happen. So that is something hard for women, that women really think they can do it all. They're multitaskers. And again, I just did a workshop this week and I did a whole section on, what resources do you need for this task that you're going to do? Because women
that's right.
don't think of that, do they?
That's
They
no, I
don't
think
think of
you're exactly
resources.
right. Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you need money? Do you need help? Do you need time? Do you need to hire an expert? What do you need to read a book? Like, what are the resources you need? And we never think of that. We
Right.
just don't because we figure we have it all inside, but we don't. I
Yeah.
mean, we can't.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't imagine anything more important than planning. I mean,
Right.
I often said, I was a planner for 42 years, and so many people were sold, commissionable insurance policies and annuities and stuff from their broker, right? And I say, you know what? I have a whole speech, what Wall Street won't tell you. And really, the crux of it is plan first, product second. So to your
Mhm.
point, we got to have a recipe and you're going to need a whisk or you're going to need an electric mixer. You're going to need, tin foil. You're going to need parchment paper,
Right.
whatever you're going to need. Let's set that out because it's going to make that task so much more fun and
Right.
much more favorable outcome. And so I am completely with you on the planning aspect. And yet for you to pull that out, I think is very smart. And I'm just, complimenting you on it. Really good because you want to set these women up for as much success as possible. There'll be
Yes.
plenty of unknowns
Yeah,
still.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, success is important, but success looks different to everybody. It's almost not as important as getting started.
Oh, right now, right now. Yeah, you talk
Hmm.
about getting through the inertia. Absolutely. Um, what is it? I have a plaque on my wall down there. The first step of 1,000 miles is, or whatever it was.
First step, right? Yes. Yes.
Now, leveraging the community and the accountability. This is so key because the accountability, of course, once
Hmm.
you get women together, we have a collaborative ability, almost innately, I think, to say, "Atta girl, atta girl." And then when we receive, we're able to receive that. And sometimes it takes a little bit of training for us to be able to receive.
Right.
How has your experience been with people who might have found that to be a little bit difficult? Like, who are you talking about? Oh, me?
What do you mean in terms of them
Receiving
accepting?
praise from their cohorts in the group.
Oh, well, I think that women never get enough praise from people.
Oh,
They don't value themselves often enough. They don't pat themselves on the back enough. And they don't want to brag. They grew up saying, "Oh, no, don't brag, Susie." Ridiculous. Like men tell you everything all about them right off the bat. And women, a lot of times women, they just don't value what they've done in their lives and what they want to do and what their skills are and their traits are. They just don't value it. They just don't know it. They don't understand it. And it's really important for them to do that, but it's very difficult to help them do that, you know?
right, right, right. Well, I couldn't agree more that it takes practice. And so as women start to receive that, the kind of feeling like, oh, I'm a part of this group and everybody's, doing their own thing and we're all doing it together. We're moving forward. And so that means me. I'm so about that. You talk about building the confidence by exercising our action muscles. So I want to ask you to talk about the whole notion of reinvention, because I think perhaps as sometimes we tackle a little task and we have some success with that, it might open the door to much bigger and broader reinvention. Have you found that in your coaching clients?
Yeah, I mean, I think that reinvention, it feels like too big of a word. Women get nervous about that. They don't have to reinvent themselves. They can just start adding things on.
Oh, I like it.
I'll go to that yoga class.
I like
I'll ask the woman next to me to go for coffee. Like, I think, if we make it too big, they're just going to like shrink back away from it, which is not what we want.
it.
So I
Exactly.
don't use that reinvention word. I just kind of say, what is it you want? And let's go find it. Do
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? So
I
I
do.
think
Yeah.
it's important not to make it bigger than it should be,
Yeah.
which is one of the lessons in the book. Don't make it bigger than it has to be. That's one of the lessons, the 25 lessons in the book. So, I think that's important too.
Absolutely. And you talk about there's no bad experiences. We only have opportunities to learn. So talk with us about some of the coaching clients that you have, heard them through their bad experiences and they're humble, and then you've been able to suggest and work with them to morph those into learnings that they'll, be always better because of it.
Right. Well, I mean, the example that comes to me, which is not a coaching client, but which is my mother, when we talk about in the book. So my mother is 93 going on 94, as you mentioned. And one of the main threads through the book, my mother always says that we just wrote, is there are no bad experiences, just the ones you don't learn from. So if we go to the book, my father died when I was 15. She was a young widow. So she was 42.
Yeah.
And my brother and I were about to go off to college, and she had a master's in English. She had been a teacher, but now what?
Yeah.
And she went back to school, to social work school, and created for a paper for a class, a bereavement center. And it was all on paper. It was, she had to create something, and it was created out of what? A bad experience, right? I mean, that was a bad experience to have your husband die so young.
I know.
And she creates this paper for her class, and they say, well, oh, and she was an intern. She was like the oldest intern, like the 44-year-old intern. And they said, bring it to your director at the agency where you're interning. And she did. And he said, oh, we're going to do this. There were no bereavement centers then.
Right.
It was the 1970s. There wasn't any support
Mhm.
around death. There just
Right.
wasn't.
Oh, I
So
agree.
anyway, she starts this bereavement center and um, helped lots and lots of people. And then 20 years later, and she's still doing it, was 9/11. And she was then poised to help hundreds and hundreds of 9/11 widows and families. So there are no bad, was it a terrible experience that her husband died? Yes. Was that horrible? Yes. But she couldn't see it then.
Yes.
Don't go looking for it during the bad experience.
Right now.
It's more of the perspective. So that's sort of the example I would give, is that I would encourage your listeners to think back on some of the tough things that have happened to them in life, or circumstances, and what did they get from that that's positive? Did they get resilience? Did they get determination? What did they create? Did they reach out to a neighbor who then, they became friendlier with, or whatever? So um, that would be sort of what I would say about that.
Right. Well, and I did read about your mom you're right. We still don't know how to deal with grief here in the United States. I can assure you of that. I've just brought out the second edition, an updated version of my book, My Husband Died and Now What? A Widow's Guide to Grief Recovery and Smart Financial Decisions. So I'd be delighted if your mom would consider this to be one of the resources that she might put out to
Right.
people, because it's a confluence, Amy, of grief recovery tips and tools. I'm a certified grief coach, and financial tripwires to avoid, and then financial footholds to, take you safely to the next step. So I am completely resonant with the overwhelm of grief, and the fact that, I mean, I'm like, chapter 3 is the stupid ass things people say. I mean, we've got to get through. I mean,
Yeah.
the chief griever ends up, supporting people to support her. I mean, it's nuts. So anyway, I couldn't agree more with her work with grieving people. And after 9/11, I actually gave pro bono service to 8 widows, 1 widower, and a 12-year-old orphan.
Mm.
Financial planning for a year and asset management for a year, no charge. And it completely changed my life. And I then, several years later, said, I'm empathic. There's no question. I have no allergy to death. I came from a very large family. But then I said, I'm going to go get grief coach certified. And boy, this has helped, because the tools of recovery can be utilized, because a lot of grief, a lot of grief. A lot of people are holding a lot of grief. Which brings me to the brain. I am so much a student of the brain. I love the science of neuroplasticity, and you incorporate neuroscience insights into your coaching strategies. So you talk about addressing both the emotional and the cognitive aspects of behavioral change. I couldn't agree more. That the fear and the anxiety in the amygdala, right, can hold us back. And so talk with us about how you got yourself into neuroscience, and how you're seeing that accelerate people's progress.
Well, I mean, I don't think of myself as a scientist in any way, but I do think that women sort of hold themselves back.
Yeah.
That fear, it's sort of like the perfectionism,
Right now.
fear about moving forward, and fear, I do women's travel, and every time somebody thinks they maybe want to come on a trip, I always talk to them on the phone, and they might say, I've never done this before. I've never traveled with people I don't know, because we have women's travel and they sign up alone. I've never traveled with strangers, and I don't know if I can do it. And we have this whole conversation. So what I say, which was how I would answer you, is um, get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Right now.
What's
Right.
the worst thing that can happen is you come on this trip and you don't love it, but they all love it, but they don't know that yet.
Of course, of
And,
course.
I just say, what is your alternative? The alternative is you stay home.
Mhm.
I say to them, are you home very often? I'm home all the time. Okay, if you're home all the time and you're on the phone with me because you want to hear about this trip, you probably want to go on this trip. And again, I don't push people, because I'm looking for people who are looking for me. I'm not looking to like nudge and push people, but I just try to encourage them in what you were saying, which is, don't let the fear stand in your way.
Yes.
Because why? And I think recognizing it is really good. I'm uncomfortable. This makes me nervous. I'm anxious. I'm afraid, whatever those words are for you. And then I just say, well, then what's the alternative?
Exactly.
You don't come and then you stay home. And we just came back from a trip with a 16, 17 women. And one of them was, they almost all have the same conversation. And it was her first, there was 8 of them was their first trip, and 8 of them were repeat travelers. And I said, what did you think of your first trip? I'm so glad I came. Oh my God, you were right. I'm so glad I came. But let's just say one of them wasn't glad they came. Okay, well, they tried it.
I
They
know.
went out of their comfort zone. They tried something new. Okay. So I think that's part of it. And I think as we get older, we get rustier. right? We haven't had to make new, we're many years from college if we went to college. We're many years from young children and setting up those communities for ourselves when we raised our children. So we're kind of rusty. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of women are shy away from making those connections. So I run workshops called Get Connected, and I do all these things to try to help women make connections because
Yes.
we can do it. Look, you and I did it. We can do it. But it might be scary, it might be frightening, but what's the alternative? Then you go home from yoga every time and you say, ah, I should have said to Mary sitting next to me, do you want to go for coffee? Oh, but I don't, what if Mary said no? What if Mary didn't want to come with me? What if Mary, I'm like, okay, then I believe the things we regret in life are the things we don't do.
All day long.
Right. So this woman goes home and says, why didn't I ask that woman next to me? I don't even know her name to go to coffee. Well, what if the woman next to you asked you to go to coffee? Wouldn't you love that? Like you have to almost put yourself in the other position to say,
Yes.
like, what if somebody invited me to do something or
Right
said
there.
they wanted to do something, get my phone number?
Right.
What do you got to lose?
That's right. That's right.
So,
Yeah, it's that give and take that I so enjoy. Um, I come from a very large family, and my aunt was a big giver. We're all pretty much givers, and I went out to help her with a yard sale before she went into an adult community. And I said, "Let me help you put the prices on and tags on these things." I can do it, she says. I said, "I know you can, and I can do it too. And there are other things you can do that I can't do." And so life is about when we have two givers, and I looked her straight in the eye. When we have two givers, Aunt Janet, love her. She's dead now, but I loved her to pieces. When we have two givers, somebody has to step into the receiving role, and then invariably we'll just interchange. And so if you'll allow me to give, I'm in my strength in giving, and you can develop your strength in receiving. And she just looked at me with this sense that it hadn't really been chunked down like that, and we just hugged and kissed, and I went on pricing the thing. So I so understand that, and I like your comeback. What's the alternative? And I think that we sometimes we're I don't know if you experience this in the bakery, but to me, they all do these studies about, you don't put 83 jars of jam at the end of a supermarket. You like three or two,
mhm,
this or this, right?
right.
Not, oh, I can't too much. So you talk
Yeah.
about using the amygdala to help clients get through overwhelm, avoid overwhelming the brain, and help clients manage fear and stress. Boy, this can really take a hold of some of us at this whole fear thing, unless we manage it. And so talk to us about how you coach people into, okay, let's be intentional about managing this.
Yeah, and again, I try very hard not to tell people what to do, but I try to give them the ideas, like we said, get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Those kinds of things, like what you said before, the journey of a thousand miles is the first step, what you were trying to quote before. So again, I think that we have become like our own worst enemy in a lot of ways, and especially women in midlife, and especially women that maybe don't have a partner, may not be married, may be divorced or widowed or never got married or single. Now they're living alone. And I think like a lot of, we're losing a lot of our confidence. What I see is very often as women age, their confidence decreases. So they're afraid to do other things and other things feel bigger than they are, et cetera. So I just, like I said, I kind of lay it out and I say, what are you going to do about it? And some people will drop out of a course or drop out of one-on-one coaching. They'll just say, I'm done because they just can't do it. They don't want to do it enough. They can't do it. I don't know. But most people feel like this sun has come out and they get that
Yes.
they can do it and they do a little something. The very first step of something, they turn to the woman in the next yoga mat and say, hi. And they go home and they said, okay, I said hi. It doesn't matter what it is as long as it's something. It doesn't matter how far you go. It's as long as we say, I play golf with a few friends and we're not good at all. And we like tell each other how great we are because that's what we do. But we
Yes.
always, one of our sayings is forward is forward. So even if you didn't hit a good shot, even if you topped the ball, even if it just rolled off the tee, we say forward is forward. And that's the truth in life. And that's the truth in midlife. And that's the truth as we get older is having the umph to
Yeah.
do new things.
Right. right.
you know?
And this gathering and doing things in groups is so freeing because it allows us to really laugh.
Yeah.
Like I'm a golfer, I'm not a great golfer, and so yeah, you're gonna whiff, you're gonna, go off into the rough, and it's it is safe space because I always say I'm out there not because I'm great. I'm out there to kind of challenge my mind. And for 18 holes, it's me and the ball and the placement and where I'm going and just, an idea generating kind of a day, afternoon about me and the golf ball and the goal. And the people around us, we were, yeah, great shot. Oh my gosh, and you can hear everybody cheering. I think this doing things together is something that I want to definitely continue to uphold in our group. So after your group coaching sessions, do you find that people come back and kind of repeat, or do they go off in their pods and then you hear from them, or they invite you to golf with them? Talk to us about how this has legs as to how women progress after they coach with you.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, the coaching sessions are virtual. So while some of them are in Massachusetts and New England, some of them are across the country. And in fact, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. So all right, so I'll say it in two pieces. So I offer other things. So sometimes they do come back, or sometimes they like I have a women's community, a membership where we do a lot of virtual things and in person. But if they live across the country and they can do a few virtual things a month, they're thrilled with that.
Yeah.
And then I run trips. So sometimes those women from Drive Your Life, now they know me.
Yeah.
So it's much less scary. And they might come on a trip and they might start doing all these things that I do. So this one woman did the Drive Your Life program, literally from California. I don't know how she found me. She must have found me in a Facebook group or something. She did
Sure.
the program. There was a follow-up program. She did that. I loved her. And she's coming on her first trip with me in September. We're going to Quebec, and she's coming from California. I've
So,
never met her in person. I
so,
feel like I know her so well, and she obviously knows me. And
yeah.
she's making this huge trip to
Uh-huh.
she's been saying for like 2 years, I want to go on one of your trips and yada yada. So she's coming. So it really can lead anywhere, but the best thing that it does is it makes the connection. So the women in the group are connected. Like that's connections is like a pebble in a pond. It reverberates out.
It
I
is.
run a big I run one or two big events every year in the Boston area, Better Together. And we usually get 100 women there. I mean, big. Most women sign up alone. They don't know anyone, but they're sitting theater style. They're surrounded by other women that signed up alone. Maybe they brought a friend, maybe. But most of the time they're on. And they start meeting women and then they're conversing. And then we go and have lunch. We're at small tables, 4 to 6 people, and they're chatting and and it's just, it doesn't take much to like get your mojo back as far as like chatting and getting to talk to strangers. I did a whole talk at one of these events on what do you say after hello?
Love that. All
Just
right,
that reason. For
come on.
just reason, right? About the yoga woman. Hi. Now what? Hi, where do you live? Is this your first time here? Um, you know, do you work? Are you home? Do you have children? Have you been on any trips? How do you know Amy? Do you know anyone else here? Whatever. Do you want to sit together at lunch? It doesn't take much. And at one of the events, and I'm probably going to do it again in November, which is the next one. At one of the events, when I was talking about making connections, that was the topic, right? What do you say after hello? I
Yeah.
gave them a bunch of like tactics and strategies. And then I gave them 5 minutes and I said, you find somebody in this room that you do not know, cannot be somebody you know. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes to talk to each other. And I have a video, just a panning video of the room and them all just chat, 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 chat. They
Oh,
did it. They did
I
it. And they felt great. They were laughing and smiling. So that's where the connections go. It starts where it is, and then who knows where.
I love that. And to your point, we're seeding, aren't we, Amy? We're seeding
Yes.
the hope of connectivity and relationality.
Yeah.
Because as we age, it can get lonely. Sometimes our friends
Yes.
die and so forth. I'm sure your mom's experienced that. Talk to
Yes.
us about you integrate a lot of breathing kinds of tips and tools. And breathing is so very, very valuable. So talk to us about how you involve women in, learning how to stop and breathe and center themselves.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I don't know a whole lot. techniques, but the one that I talk about and the one that I do for myself, which is very easy, and your listeners may know about it, is the box breathing.
Okay.
Where you inhale to the count of 4, you hold it to the count of 4, you exhale to the count of 4, and you hold it to the count of 4. Very simple. And even, I mean, I think a lot of times women get anxious at night. That for many women, or for me, is like the scariest time, is as you're about to go to sleep. Things can seem bigger than they really are, right? It's just, I don't know what it is. It's a scarier time. So it's a great time to do that. Or if you wake up in the middle of the night, to just
Yeah.
like calm yourself and to do that, to the 1, 2, 3, 4, and an inhale, hold it for 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold it for 1, 2, 3, 4. And I think it's also comforting to know that our own breathing, we have control of, right? I mean, because I really believe in life, there are the things you can control and the things you can't control. And
Right.
most of us focus on the things we can't control. This happened to me. This is my circumstance, whatever. And that's true. But what can you control about it? What can you do? What can you learn? What can you do? So that's one of my things is, I really, really feel like uh, I try to encourage women. I think we can control a lot more than we think we can.
Oh, I am completely in alignment with that and agreement. Um, this notion of victim is a rut, right? And so until we change the neural pathways in our brain to get out of that rut instead of deepening that and formulate a new neural pathway that says, hey, what's possible?
Hmm.
What can I do in this circumstance rather than, sitting in our sad sack story, which is interesting. And yet I find this in grief coaching. Once someone has heard us into speech and we have felt heard,
Hmm.
then there's this all right, I can let a great deal of that, if not of all of it, I can let that go and
Hmm.
then endeavor on the next step, little tiny baby steps. And this notion of being a victim, we're in a day and time, I think, Amy, that I call for us to be in a radical responsibility mode.
Hmm.
I want us to take radical responsibility for us.
Yeah.
I think we have a responsibility in our thoughts, in our energy, what we're putting out. There's no such thing as singular thought in my humble. And so it's radical responsibility to look at our situation. And yes, there's outside influences that some of them are very daunting. And yet, if we can stay centered into our own rationality. Now, you talk about teaching how emotions and logic interact in the brain, and I was taught in neuro-linguistic program training that when intellect is high, emotions are low, and vice versa. So I'm never wanting a person to be making a financial decision when they're all embroiled in their emotions, right? I want them to emote fully, and then I want them to maybe even change the position in the chair and deal with intellect. So I don't know if you get into that, but you work a lot with the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, so I suspect you touch on it at least. So talk to us about, has that been a new concept of women that might be emoting at a time when you're seeing they could be formulating their next step, their next strategy step. I don't know. Am I all wet on that?
Yeah. I do think, emotions and your conscious thoughts can get in the way, is what you said. You want people to sort of vent or experience. I always say feel the feels, feel the
Right.
feels, and then think about what they want to do about it. And I think you're right. A lot of times if women are in that feeling state, it's hard for them to make a decision on something like finances.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think so too. So talk to us about the synaptic potential and how we can understand that better.
I'm not really sure what you're referring
Well,
to.
it's all about the neuroscience perspective that presumably you're interweave into your coaching. But in order to enhance our the results, if you will, of coaching by grounding our methods in understanding how the brain works and working with our brains, right? So encouraging our brain. And I don't know, I talk to myself before I go to sleep because I think that while I'm sleeping, my subconscious is doing some work. And if I don't give it an assignment, I don't know what it'll be doing. It can't be bad, I'm sure, but I always like to have it working on something. So I don't know how much you get into that, or maybe you believe in it, but I think that the synaptic potential, I think, in all of our lives is unlimited. I think if we can tap into, what's in our brain, then it's kind of like taking a shortcut, right? You still have the recipe, you still have the ingredients, but maybe, I don't know, you put it in an air fryer now and you do it in half the time that the oven goes in. I don't know, but I'm so interested in us using our brains for our best potential. And it feels to me like your whole experiential with the groups and so forth is completely successful. I congratulate you on it. It's amazing.
Thank you. I mean, I love that you're talking to yourself, and I think that that's really important. And going back to the book, my mother says how even when she was 10 years old during World War II, and she was at home alone in the pitch black because they were all night blackouts in Norfolk, Virginia, and her father was away, and her sister was dating someone, and the mother was an air raid warden, and this 10-year-old, we would never leave a 10-year-old home alone ever, never mind in the dark. I mean, we would never today, but they did then. And she talks about how she just started talking to herself. And she said, I'll be okay. You'll be okay. The morning will come. This will be okay. So I love that you do that. And I think that her philosophy also is, learn to be your own best friend. Because if you can rely on yourself, you don't have to worry about all those other people. But a lot of that is just what you said. It's just talking to yourself and hoping you listen. And I also think, we talk to a lot of people, and women have a lot of voices in their heads, right? And so the most important voice, the one you hear the most, is whose? It's your own. You hear your own voice. So what are you saying to yourself? I can't do this. I'll never do this. Or I'm going to try doing this. I hope I like this. Maybe I'll like this. Right. So a lot of it is that glass half full, glass half empty thing. But it's also, and I've talked to a lot of women who have their mother's voice in their head. Oh, you'll never amount to anything, or you look fat in that, or I don't know, whatever the things are. You know what I mean? And or your sister's smarter than you are. I mean, crazy things that, we're so sorry to know that the mother said that, but that's what stuck with them.
Sure.
They're 60. And this is the voice they hear. So we can't always eliminate that voice that we've been hearing for decades, but we can use our own voice inside our head. I mean, I talk to myself. I work in my apartment alone most of the time. I'm by myself. I talk to people all day long, but when I'm working, I'm kind of by myself. And I say, we can do this. We're doing it. Hooray. Let's try this. And then I'll say, oh, this is going to be really hard. Oh, all right, let's do the hard stuff. We do hard things. I say we, but it's just me. So there's a lot we can all do to cheer ourselves on. And there just is, and I think we have to decide. Are we going to put ourselves down and listen to those voices, or are we going to lift ourselves up? And who else can we lift up? Like, just as an example,
Yeah.
if any of your community plays pickleball. So I was playing pickleball yesterday in my gym. I don't know, I casually know these women. I'm trying to remember their names. They're not friends. And
Yeah.
we're playing, and I'm like saying to the woman next to me, that's great. We missed the point. Who cares? She had so many great shots. And I was like, Marianne, that was so great. You did so great. And then back and forth. And then we switched partners. And this woman goes, you have such a great attitude. She didn't even know me. She'd been playing opposite me, right across the net. She goes, you have such a great attitude. Right. Why? Because I'm telling them how great they are. And I meant it. She had some great shots. Who cares who got the point? No one's tallying anything. So I think women are surprised when someone is cheering them on. They really are. They
Yeah.
really, really are. And even in pickleball, it's another perfect example. Like, a woman will make a great shot and she'll say, oh, that was just luck.
Oh, yeah.
And I say, that wasn't luck. That was you made a great shot. So I don't know why it is that women can't feel confident in themselves and what they're doing, but they don't. They can't. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's nettlesome for sure. I remember listening to your mom on an interview where you both were interviewed on another podcast, and she talked about when she would start to have to scrub the floor,
Yes.
and she would, make up little poems to herself, and she would
Yes.
talk herself through it. And I love that.
Yes.
I live alone, and I have little sayings around, and I walk by them and I audibly repeat them because it's helpful. I think that the little chatterbox. That's how my dear late friend Dr. Susan Jeffers talked, a little chatterbox, right? Saying all this negative stuff. It was Dr. Amy Cuddy, I think, that said in a presentation, and she said, "How many people, would consider yourself your worst enemy?" And like every hand went up.
Yeah.
This is silly. I mean, men do not work like this. And
No.
so I'm not saying we want to be like men. I want to say that we want to grow into the confidence of who we already are and who we are developing into, because there's so much more to follow if we're lucky. People are in the obituaries every day, but if we're lucky and we live long enough, we can learn long enough and we can expand our horizon and not have that doubting,
Yeah.
niggling voice demean
Mm-hmm.
us, because this is a time for us to rise up into ourself, into our feminine power,
Mm-hmm.
power over.
Right.
Women get a little allergy about the word power because the whole power over, thumb on your neck or knee on your neck is over just overwhelmingly negative. And yet the personal power that women can bring to the table in any problem situation, in any challenging situation, I think really it's ripe for development. And I'm so
Mm-hmm.
grateful that coaches like you are out there doing the great work you're doing, small
Thank you.
groups, large events, etc., travel. Um, what's next for you?
Yeah, so I guess for me, like in the small picture, I'm going to be promoting Drive Your Life. I have a big event in November. I just opened up a trip to Punta Cana for Wandering Women. That'll be the winter of 2026. I have something new coming up next April that I'm working on, like kind of an overnight retreat, not a full trip, but not a one-day event that people like you, people in your area can come up for a New England overnight and not coaching, but connections, do some really good work. So I'm working on that. I'm always working on something new because I thrive with new things. And we're promoting our book and we're hoping to get more readers and more reviewers and more publicity for our book. So we're always working on that.
Absolutely. I'm enthralled with it. I just got it a couple days ago and I'm like piecing through it, and it's fun. And I also enjoyed the interview with your mom. And you have a great piece on YouTube, I'm sure, several. But this is really exceptional work. Amy, tell our viewing audience how they can best reach you.
Yeah, just my website is my name. So it's www.amy, A-M-Y, Goober, Goober, all one word. And everything is on there. Everything I do, everything's on there. So that's the easiest way. And I'm on all the social media. You'll find me. Everything's my name: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. It's all my name. So trying to make it really easy for people to reach out, and they can grab a free 30-minute call with me.
Sweet.
So it's such a great, I think it's a gift. I get to know them, they get to know me, I help them out. So anybody can do that.
I am completely thinking that many of our people will be delighted to chat with you, and I thank you for that lovely offer. We appreciate you, and so thank you for joining us, Amy, and thank you for joining us, viewers, on the We Can Do It Women Show. Remember, I see you, I value you, and your greatest chapter is just beginning. If today's episode sparks something in you, I invite you to check out our Wealth and Wellness Luxury Retreat in the south of France. Yes, we're going to cultivate wealth and creativity together, October 25th through November 1st, a few months from now. You'll leave the retreat knowing step by step how to make money. So if money is on your to-do list, or you've shunned away from knowing how to make money, or you've skinned your knee and never came back into the game, if you will, this is for you. I teach you that you're leaving with a viable skill that you can rinse and repeat. Every morning I will teach that, give you a lot of handouts, and then we're going to tour area mansions, do cooking classes, and delight in delectable farm to table culinary delights with our chef, personal chef, James. We had him last year and everybody raved about him, as well as an inbound sommelier introducing us to area wines, and of course a wine tasting and plenty of non-alcoholic drinks for those who don't drink wine. This is an adventure that you can tax deduct. Yes, you can. We can interweave all kind of massage, trail walks, etc. And the mansion is owned by my dear friend and former client, Abby Carter, who is a World Trade widow. and she raised her two kids by herself. And then they're graduated college, of course. And now she went over to France, bought the chateau a couple of years ago, and began renovating it. You can see all of her renovation, asking the people in the surrounds, should this be what color? And over 55,000 subscribers she has on Chateau Chronicles. That's the mansion we're going to sleep in and be in community in. I can't advertise it or say enough about it, but I don't have to say it. Our people that went have given testimonials, and you can find those on the We Can Do It Women page. So wecandoitwomen.com/retreats. Read all about it. And I think today we're opening up to take deposits. So the first one's in, get to choose the rooms, and it's just a ton of fun. Plus, I'm going to learn how to speak some French before we go. So Abby's teaching me about the couple or three courses that she has found very valuable. And so maybe a few of us can learn French together, because when we go to the market, I'd like to know what they're talking about. So until next time, this is the We Can Do It Women movement. And I'm reminding you, it's never too late to shine. And pay attention to your money, and it will surely pay you back. Thank you and good day.